Here's what to check and what to do when you have oil consumption on 2.0 turbo, 2.4 GDI, Hyundai, all models from around 2011, 2019, perhaps other years as well. So basically there are several things that you may want to check, but also do at home. And I can tell you that one of the most common issue that causes this oil consumption is stuck piston rings, but the oil piston rings. So you have compression rings, but also a oil ring on your piston. This oil ring, but also the compression one, may get stuck. I'll explain why. And you can unstuck them. Several people did report soaking the pistons. I will link you this, for instance, this thread. We just scroll down and just read their videos, a lot of information. And the people that did this kind of home treatment, if you want, which is exactly what, similar to what Hyundai is doing at the dealership as well, it seems to have good success unless this oil consumption has been going on for very long, and at that moment you have more engine wear. So try to catch it early, and then you have good success chances. So this is the first, not the first, but the most common thing that people do. But I want to just share with you a few other things. So the first thing, when you have oil consumption, just for the sake of it, just remove, usually it's located here, PCV valve. Just remove it and just shake it. It must make a click. It's really just a small spring with a ball inside. Make sure it clicks easily, and you may also blow into it or just replace it if it doesn't click. So this is one of the things that you may want to check. By the way, cover is plastic, valve is plastic, the nipple is plastic. So when you put it back in place, don't torque like it's metal on metal, right? So it's really just a gentle torque, it's slightly snug with a wrench, but really gentle. Okay, so careful. And by the way, these covers are very prone to leak oil, very prone, even from factory. On my car, basically it did leak from new, and we didn't know about it, but it did leak inside the spark plug hole. It's going to look like this. You don't need to remove the spark plug. You will look just down all the holes, 4 cylinders, 4 holes, and look around the spark plug. Just remove the ignition coil from above, obviously. And if you see dark line of oil, like a dark circle, then it means the cover is leaking around the spark plug. And when you drive the car, this oil gets very hot, so very fluid. It's going to leak past the threads of the spark plug. Even if the spark plug has a washer and is properly secured, it's going to leak inside. And what happens is this oil, basically it's leaking on the electrode, is not the right word, but on the tip of the spark plug, and you get a misfire, and you will not have a check engine light or something like this, but your fuel consumption will increase, and this is not a good thing. But the worst part of this is that this oil that leaks inside, when your car is going to be parked, this amount of oil is still warm, will leak inside, on top of the piston, around the piston rings, onto the rings. And especially if the car is going to be parked for a while, or if this has been going on for many years, that's what started to gum up the piston rings, including the oil ring. Gum up, I mean, they get stuck. And the moment the piston rings, especially the oil ring, gets stuck, then you start having high oil consumption, because it can no longer, the oil ring no longer is sealing properly inside the cylinder. So basically it's oil coming from the crankcase, which get burned inside the combustion chamber. So all you have to do is soak that. Read on forums how to do this properly. Don't exaggerate. It's better to leave it there for longer, in my opinion, maybe a couple of days. Always, obviously, you are going to replace the engine oil before starting the car. And again, good rate of success. And basically, this is what Hyundai is doing as well. If you bring the car in, they will do an oil consumption test. They'll seal your engine, check the level oil after a couple of I don't know, some driving, and they will do exactly the same. This is a TSB. I'll put all these links in the comment section, top comment basically. This is what they do. They have a product, I'm not sure what exactly is, maybe. So this is the product they use. They soak the engine pistons the same way you can do at home. So all this to say that this, I believe, from what I've written for forums, is the main cause for this oil consumption. Now, you may wonder what's going on with these oil leaks. Basically, again, it can be internal, like this, on one or more spark plugs, basically. But also at some point, you will see that leak external on top of the engine here. I will explain in a moment a bit about replacing the gasket for the cover, right? But first, I think, because I had this not only on my car from new, but also I've seen this so often on forums on Hyundai, these models. In my opinion, what happens is that it's just throwing this out there. Perhaps you're going to laugh on this, but I think when they assemble these engines on the factory, for some reasons, their technician does not clean their hands, and when they manipulate the gasket or various gasket bits or the covers, they just put at some point some greasy gloves on the matching surfaces, and that point will start leaking oil after a while. So that's theory. But anyway, you may try to replace the cover. It is not that easy of a job. I'll explain in a moment why. Because it's the only way basically to stop this is to replace the cover. Almost all the time. Myself, I had this on one spark plug, and I actually, without removing the cover, I managed to clean this really well with alcohol, with cold engine, and then just smear gray RTV Permatex stuff, and I did smear it around where the matching surfaces for the gasket is, and it stopped this leak. You may succeed, you may not succeed. Hopefully, if I don't forget, I'll put that video in the comment section. But ideally, you may want to replace the cover. Let me just look around. Okay, before going for the cover replacement, there is another person who posted this. You'll find in comment section as well. He said he had the 2.0 turbo engine, and he said once he did replace a couple of cups, the orange one, just read through this post here, his oil consumption did stop. So maybe there's this thing that may happen. I'm not sure if it's only on the turbo 2.0 or on 2.4 GDI as well, but you may want to read through this topic as well. Now let me just go for the cover replacement gasket. The trick here is that we have the high pressure fuel pump on top of the cover of the engine. So for those who maybe are not aware, GDI have a secondary high pressure fuel pump on top of the one that's inside the tank. And this pump is tricky to replace. There are a few things that you may want to be really aware. If you try to do, this is the pump, basically it sits underneath this. Is like a foam or insulant or something like this. So this is what you find if you lift that foam. Notice the connectors here, quick release, but they are tricky, and I believe is more than one model up there. Now this pump is tricky for a few reasons. I urge you to first read on Hyundai forums, and I do recommend you look on this. So it's Hyundai lineforums.com. So be sure to search on these forums how to replace that pump, because this is a technician from Hyundai, actually a very nice person who helps us a lot of this forum, and he clearly states that you need to replace this component of the pumps. Especially what's very important, and some people don't do it, is this fuel delivery pipe. If you don't replace it and you reuse the old one, high chances, as per people who did try before and come to complain on forum, that line will start leaking, because it's a single-use line. It crushes the end once you tighten it. So if you try to retighten it, that end it's already crushed, may have a good chance not to seal properly. Remember, this is high pressure fuel coming in there. It's not like the fuel from inside the tank. Now there are several problems replacing this pump. These two bolts here several people did report they did shear these bolts trying to remove them. It's very thin bolts. I'm not sure what's the size, but it's a really slim bolt, so careful when you try to replace it, remove it from there. If you shear it, one of them, you can actually replace the base complete. Now you can buy it from Hyundai. It's going to be fairly expensive, but you may try to ask your dealership gently, because it seems, this is what this technician says, it seems that when they replace this pump, for instance, they throw away this base, they remove it from the engine, they throw away. So maybe some dealership may have a used, you don't see the base here in the image, but it's just underneath, may have this bits of parts sitting in some bin in their garage. So maybe gently try to ask them to get one for free, just the bottom part, if you shear these bolts. There is also tricks how to toast these lines. I don't remember exactly the details. You may want to read the forums how to disconnect this. Again, remember to replace the seal inside, and also may try to check the roller. There is a roller bearing inside which works with the cam of the engine to spin a lobe, and that's what puts pressure inside the pump to create that high pressure fuel. And that roller, especially if your engine oil was not in good condition for a long time, that roller wears off and makes a rattling sound. So it's a good time to replace that part as well. So these are the points about this oil consumption thing. Again, if you catch it early, it's a good chance you will just get rid of it more or less completely, depends on your luck. You never may expect perfect results, but anyway. Also, I just want to point out that this is a situation that's very different than the engine replacement warranty. So obviously, perhaps most of you know already that these engines, GDI from 2011 2019, had a serious problem with the engine failure, which usually happens from around 85 to 120,000 miles when it happens. And I do have a video. I'm going to link that video in the comment section as well. It's going to be the last link where I explain a theory why I think this happens. Now, that issue is separate, and I have several videos also explaining how to get the warranty done by Hyundai and all the details that you may want to understand about that topic. However, keep in mind that oil consumption for Hyundai is not covered by that warranty. Some dealerships will help with the oil consumption, but it does most of the times, from what we read on forums, it will not result in an engine replacement under warranty for free, the oil consumption part. So either you deal with it, with the oil consumption, either you try to fix it by yourself, or either you try to bring it to Hyundai, mention this TSB, ask them to try to dislodge that piston ring, oil piston ring thing, and be sure to eventually replace the cover, right, so it doesn't come back again with the same problem. But oil consumption problem, usually it's on your own, so it's not covered by Hyundai. The only thing that Hyundai covers actually is important connecting rod bearing wear. They do a test for clearance on the bearings, or engine seized. So they do also a test when the engine seized. Basically, it happens all of a sudden in the middle of the road. Majority of owners did report that moment, unpleasant moment. Engine dies, it won't even crank back because it seized. Actually, it's important not to force it to crank, because you are going to burn the starter as well. So basically, when the engine seized, it's seizing, Hyundai will just turn the crank, and they have a certain measure of the torque that's required to turn the crank by hand. If it's over that measure, Hyundai says the engine is seized, and depending on the situation, they will replace it for free, hopefully. So check the comment section and be sure to go on these forums and ask questions that you may have.